Several song-filled hours later...
Oh. Excuse me. Sup? Dumb. Who is this? Oh, I forgot to. Oh, okay. I need a tissue. I'm sorry.
In this episode, we'll be exploring two cases that are bound to churn your stomach and make you question your faith in humanity. Both cases have some chilling evidence to accompany them, namely, some CCTV footage that chronicles a woman's last night on Earth, and a set of photos taken moments before this couple had their lives snatched away from them.
That's not Adidas. Adidas has 3 stripes. I can see why he got his shit clucked up. Look at the shoes he's wearing.
The case is for the faint of heart, so get yourself into the right frame of mind as we get ready to explore these mysteries.
The hell is that?
And see if we can make any sense of them. But just before we begin, it's nice to have a way to unwind after a hard day.
That's him? That's him? I did not picture him looking like that. That's crazy. Maybe I've seen him before. I just forgot what he looked like. That's crazy. I don't know. He a good looking guy. I'm not gonna lie. Look at that. Look at the luscious hair. Who else don't we see? Who I've never seen before. I don't know if I've seen Mr. Nightmare before. I don't know if I've seen Mort before. What's his name? Nighttime Spooks. Is that another one? Nuke's Top 5s. No, I know Chills. Chilling Scares. There's a lot of YouTubers faces that make great content. I just never seen their faces before. That's crazy.
That's why I'm happy to introduce today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid has more than 650 champions and hosts events all the time, so you can de-stress by building your team and taking the fight to some bad guys. Given that love's in the air, I figured I'd share my top 3 St. Valentine's champions in Raid. In third place, it's Cupidus. He's both a lover and a fighter. Coming in second, Countess Lix. I was always more of a wingman myself. And in first place, Seducer. Blimey, it's like looking in a mirror. To all new Raid players, it's time to vote for your favorite starter champion. Download Raid Shadow Legends from the links below. Then go to championselect.plarium.com. Enter your player ID and vote for your chosen champion. The vote runs until February 10th, with all eligible entrants being in with a chance to win some awesome prizes, including epic and legendary champions, in-game items, and Amazon gift cards worth up to $1,000. When the vote ends, one champion will stand triumphant, and the prize winners will be selected via a draw. Don't worry if you're an existing Raid player, you can still get involved. Just head to championselect.plarium.com, where you'll find a special promo code that everyone can use for a small in-game gift. If you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description, or scan my QR code on screen here, and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Trinoru, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 epic skeleton.
Oh shit. Sasha's... I don't know how to say that.
Born in New York and raised in Florida, real estate agent Sasha Samsudean was known as the Cupid of apartment hunting.
Hey guys, I'm Sasha from 407apartments.com, and I'm also this year's AAGO Education Chair.
Fun, friendly, and a consummate professional, Sasha was a well-respected member of her local community who had helped countless people find a place to call home. As for her own digs, Sasha lived in downtown Orlando, in an apartment block ironically named Uptown Place. It was a secure building with numerous CCTV cameras, a security guard, and digital key codes for each individual apartment. On the evening of October 16th, 2015, a then 27-year-old Sasha went on a night out with friends. all of them decked out in purple shirts, celebrating their favorite football team's win that day. The group ended up at a nightclub called Attic, where they drank and danced the night away. At approximately 12:30 a.m. on October 17th, Sasha said goodbye to her pals and departed from the venue alone. One of her friends, Anthony Roper, had made breakfast plans with Sasha for later that morning, and so figured that he would see her again very soon. However, Sasha never showed up for breakfast. Thinking that was out of character, Anthony began calling and messaging Sasha to see where she was. She didn't answer, which again was unlike her.
It's very out of the ordinary to not hear from her because Sasha is very, very active on social media, text messaging and everything. So I reached out to her closer friends. Nobody else had heard from her.
Concerned for her well-being, Anthony and two other friends went to Sasha's apartment later that day. The trio knocked on Sasha's door. When she didn't open it, Anthony called the police.
Hi, I need to fill out a person's report. We went to her apartment to go check. She's there, and she's gone.
And what is her first name?
Her first name is Sasha.
Officers arrived to conduct a wellness check at 8 p.m. that evening. They noted that there wasn't any sign of a forced entry, but upon gaining access to Sasha's apartment, they were immediately hit by the smell of bleach. It didn't take long for them to find Sasha's lifeless body in the bedroom, wrapped up in her comforter.
God.
The clothes covering her torso had been torn open. Her necklace was caught in her hair. The bottom half of her body was bare. The coroner determined that she had sustained injuries to the head and arms, but had ultimately been strangled until all of the life in her was snuffed out. Whoever had taken Sasha's life, they were almost certainly male, made obvious by the fact that they had left the toilet seat up. But despite having doused half the apartment with bleach in an attempt to destroy any physical evidence that he had left behind, this unknown killer had made several huge mistakes. On that very same toilet seat lid, detectives found 2 fingerprints which didn't belong to Sasha or anyone close to her. The perpetrator had also left behind a shoe imprint next to her bed, and his DNA was found on Sasha's body. Unfortunately, it didn't match with anyone on their system. Investigators began to question whether Sasha had met someone that night and invited them over. They turned their attention to the many CCTV cameras between Attic and Sasha's condominium, and despite it having been a very busy night in downtown Orlando, they were able to identify her and track her movements. Curiously, despite leaving the venue alone, Sasha was caught on camera walking with 2 other females. After an appeal, this duo would come forward. As it would turn out, these women had spotted Sasha stumbling home by herself, and, worried about her, offered to get a taxi with her and drop her back home. Sasha took them up on their offer. The pair then watched as she walked up to her condominium. The building's security guard, a man named Stephen Duxbury, denied her entrance to the building since apparently he didn't recognize her. But according to these women, another resident entering the building vouched for her and led her inside. Following this, the authorities questioned that same security guard, Stephen Duxbury. According to him, after finally letting her into the building, Stephen later found Sasha trying and failing to enter her apartment. She was apparently so intoxicated that she couldn't remember the access code. She asked Stephen to walk her to a car outside so that she could get a backup key. However, before they got there, Sasha remembered the code and ran back to her door.
We went out and we didn't even go to any car because maybe 5 steps out. She's like, wait, I think you're on the code now. And then bring her back to the thing. She starts trying to punch in codes. Yeah, it's still not working. At this point, I'm like, I gotta keep doing my job. I'm just gonna go do this. If I come back and you're still not in your apartment, we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with the situation.
According to Stephen, as Sasha went to input her code, he did a sweep of the apartment. When he returned, Sasha was no longer there, and he assumed that she had finally gotten inside. Stephen claimed that he saw Sasha again that night, walking down a hallway, this time chatting with a man he had never seen before. That unknown man quickly became the investigators' prime suspect. Next, detectives looked at Sasha's phone history and learned that the last message she had ever sent before her slaying was to an ex-boyfriend named Ben. The two of them had been texting each other throughout that night, and Ben had asked Sasha if she'd like to meet him at a party. At 5:12 a.m., however, Sasha sent him a text which simply read, "Ben." This was the last message that she ever sent. Ben was tracked down and questioned, but after voluntarily giving up a DNA sample and giving the authorities a concrete alibi, he was ruled out as a potential suspect. Eventually, the authorities were able to get their hands on Uptown Place's security recordings from the night of Sasha's demise. That footage would prove to be extremely revealing. At 1:46 a.m., Sasha was seen entering the building, followed by the resident who let her in. This man follows Sasha and asks if she's okay. She was then seen stumbling up the stairs and disappeared from the camera's view for approximately 20 minutes. At 2:06 a.m., she was again caught on camera, now running up another flight of stairs. This time pursued by the building's security guard, Stephen Duxbury. At 2:25 a.m., he and Sasha were filmed walking together towards the building's parking lot, just as Stephen had told the investigators earlier. They're both seen re-entering the building after Sasha remembered her entrance code. So far, so innocent. However, they quickly realized that there wasn't any footage of Sasha walking down the hallways with an unknown male, as Stephen had told them. Here's where things get dark. At 5:13 a.m., at almost exactly the same time Sasha sent her final ever message, security guard Stephen was caught moving in the direction of Sasha's apartment. At 6:36 a.m., he was again seen exiting the building, this time carrying 2 trash bags, which he then placed in his car outside. At 6:39 a.m., he clocked off from work and left the scene. Finding all that suspicious, detectives took a closer look and realized that the type of trash bag Stephen was carrying were the exact same type that Sasha kept in her apartment. Believing that he may have been removing evidence from the scene, investigators obtained a warrant to search Stephen Duxbury's house. Inside, they found a pair of shoes that matched perfectly with the print found near Sasha's bed. They also learned that his fingerprints matched perfectly with...
I'm not matching, I'm not doing no DNA. I'm not doing no CCTVs. I'm locking the security guard up on site. And I'm giving you 5 years to life without no chance of parole. Even if you're not like the suspect, even if you're not the one that did it, I'm still locking you up on sustenance.
Was found on Sasha's toilet seat, and the DNA found on her remains was also an exact match. A bite mark on Stephen's arm and scratches on his body suggested that somebody had recently fought back against him. Perhaps the most disturbing piece of evidence against Stephen, though, came when the police searched his phone records. Just a few short minutes before Sasha was killed, Stephen had Google searched how to override a quick-set keypad lock. The exact same type of lock on Sasha's door. In the face of such a mountain of evidence, it took a jury only 4 hours of deliberation to find Stephen guilty of Sasha's murder. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Thank you.
After looking at the footage, many believe that Sasha realized who Stephen really was underneath his uniform, and that she could sense the peril she was in. That she feigned forgetting her entrance code so that Stephen, who was sticking to her like glue, wouldn't be able to force himself inside her apartment. in the end, he didn't let that stop him. Chillingly, Sasha Samsudean's life had been taken by the very person whose job it was to keep her safe. It's people like Stephen Duxbury that really churn your stomach. The monsters hiding among us, who pounce on any twisted opportunity they can find, and force the rest of us to question the motives of those around us, even those we should be able to trust.
So, like, at that point, who do you trust? You can't trust no security officers, no officers. You know, really anybody who's anybody, you can't trust no one. You can't even really trust yourself. You need to trust yourself before you need to trust anybody else. You know? Just because they're in a uniform, just because they show a badge, just because they symbolize something, don't mean a damn thing. Because the one on the street talking crazy as hell about to themselves for hours on end could protect you and save you from a police officer that's on some clock shit. Bumblebee Road. Jesus. Is that the name of the road? Or are we going to be dealing with some bumblebees? It's bumblebees.
On October 17th, 2003, the lifeless bodies of two young lovers were discovered in the back of a white Ford F-150
Jesus.
just off Bumblebee Road, a popular camping spot near Black Canyon City, Arizona. Both bodies were found inside their sleeping bags, with multiple gunshot wounds to their heads. They were quickly identified as 19-year-old Lisa Guerreri and 21-year-old Brandon Rumbaugh, both of whom had been reported missing the previous day. The couple had traveled up to the remote Bumblebee Road exit of I-17 to spend their one-year anniversary together, an attempt to recreate the romantic stargazing of their first date. Sadly, it was a trip that they would never return from, and almost 2 decades later, their killer is yet to be caught.
Oh my God.
By all accounts, Lisa and Brandon were just your average young couple who lived together in Scottsdale, Arizona. Lisa was a Mesa High School graduate who worked for a local utilities company. She had dreams of becoming a wedding planner and regularly sang hymns at her local church. Brandon was a student and aspiring fitness entrepreneur who, according to friends, treated Lisa like a queen. Many said that the pair were a perfect match, and that they were both kind, friendly, and popular. Not a single person could think of anyone who would wish them dead. When the couple failed to return from their romantic getaway, Lisa's mother, Paula, immediately reported them missing. She later said it was extremely out of character for Lisa to stay out all night. Soon after they were reported missing, friends and family of the couple began to search the area surrounding Bumblebee Road. And on Sunday afternoon, just after 3:30 p.m., their bodies were discovered in the bed of their pickup truck. It's unclear whether or not...
Excuse me, I farted. I'm so sorry.
...were asleep at the time they were slain, or indeed whether they were in their bags at the time, or had been placed in them afterwards. Following their arrival at the scene, local homicide detectives uncovered some deeply unsettling pieces of evidence. The first was a disposable camera found discarded just a few feet away from the couple's truck. Yavapai County Sheriff Frank Barbaro later stated that the camera appeared to have been thrown with a great deal of force, possibly in an attempt to destroy it. Although, if that was the case, it was a poor attempt, Several photographs were later recovered from the camera, but only 3 of them were of any real significance. The first showed Lisa sitting in the back of the truck, looking just off camera and smiling at the photographer. Behind her is pitch blackness. Despite her seemingly happy demeanor, Lisa's mother Paula believes that there's something off with her daughter's expression in this photo. In her words, as a mother, she can just tell that something's not right. The other photo shows Brandon in almost exactly the same position, in the bed of the same truck where he and his girlfriend would later be found lifeless. Only, unlike Lisa, Brandon isn't smiling in his photo. He remains straight-faced, with his arms folded. These images were almost certainly taken shortly before the couple met their grisly end. It remains unclear whether the couple took these images themselves, or whether someone else was behind the camera, posing them. Some agree that Lisa and Brandon appear uncomfortable, as if they were being photographed by a forceful third party, while others think that the images look completely normal, and that the couple were simply mucking around and making some memories together, oblivious to whoever lurked in the darkness surrounding them. Others still believe it's a mix of both, that their killer was operating the lens, but that it was someone that they already knew and were comfortable around, hence their laid-back demeanors. The final image of note on the camera is unusual. It seems to have been taken through a doorway, perhaps intentionally, perhaps by accident, and shows a room with a light fixture and a plant. None of the victim's friends or family were familiar with the location shown in this photo. It's not clear whether this image was taken before or after Lisa and Brandon were slain. If before, it could suggest that someone was trying to snap a secret shot of one or both victims. If after, that would mean that the perp took the camera from the scene of the slayings, photographed another location for whatever reason, then returned to the truck again after the fact. Aside from the photos, the second thing of note was that Brandon and Lisa's video camera was missing from the scene. They had brought the recording device along with them on their trip, but despite a thorough search of the surrounding area, it was nowhere to be found. Only its protective outer casing had been left behind, discarded near the truck. The fact that the video camera was the only thing taken by the perpetrator comes with its own chilling implication. That Brandon and Lisa weren't just the unfortunate victims of a cruel killer, but that they were also forced to star in their own snuff film. Based on the shell casings found at the scene, investigators determined that the couple had been shot with a .25 caliber handgun. But aside from that, the scene offered very little evidence at all. The investigation was also hampered by the fact that almost 100 other campers were in the area on the night of the incident. Dozens were tracked down and interviewed, but none of them were close enough to have heard any shots, and no one presented themselves as a potential suspect. In the 2 decades following Brandon and Lisa's slayings, 2 prevailing theories have emerged. The first involves the presence of a jealous person in their social circle. Lisa's uncle believes that one of her closest friends, a still unnamed male, harbored deep, unrequited feelings for her. This friend appeared content to remain in the so-called friend zone, but in the run-up to the murders, a great deal of social disharmony had rippled through the group of friends, possibly stemming from these unrequited feelings. It's also worth noting that the day before the couple lost their lives, Brandon was seen by neighbors arguing with an unidentified man outside his doorway. Many have speculated that this man may have been that very same jealous friend. Lisa's uncle claims that this friend suddenly disappeared following the slayings, and when police went to question him, they found his home complete.
That would be crazy. To have somebody take a picture of y'all right before they ended your life. That would be some crazy ass shit. And I don't know if it would be more crazier to see it coming, to know it's coming, or to not know it's coming. Because, like, what if you have somebody that took the picture and both the man and the woman know the person, and like they been cool with the person that took the photo, and after they took the photos, it was raps, or they could have like not either way, it's both fucking crazy.
Empty and chemically cleaned. Given how suspicious that looked, police later tracked the man down in order to properly question him. Sadly, this move proved fruitless. He passed the polygraph test, gave them a strong alibi, and vehemently denied any involvement in his former friend's murders. In the end, law enforcement were forced to let him go, but he remains a person of interest to this day. After all, polygraphs aren't exactly the most reliable bit of kit. The second of the two dominant theories comes from a cold case volunteer by the name of Deborah West. Deborah spent the past 20 years working on the Bumblebee case and has come to the conclusion that Brandon and Lisa had most likely fallen victim to some kind of robbery gone wrong. Based on all the evidence, it's her view that the killer intended to steal what he thought was an empty truck, but was caught off guard by the couple's presence in the back of it. He then shot them in a moment of fright, perhaps after they woke up and saw his face. Deborah points to a very similar crime that occurred 6 months later, just a few miles away from where Brandon and Lisa were slain. In that instance, 2 men were shot dead before their truck was stolen. The thief was later found dead himself from a self-administered gunshot.
Oh my god.
Deborah believes that Brandon and Lisa's case can still be solved with the help of DNA testing, and that securing a DNA specimen from the deceased truck thief is the key. She's also publicly professed her hope that the couple's families will one day get the answers they deserve. But, in all likelihood, it'll be a very long wait indeed. Then again, if robbery was the slayer's motive, it seems unusual that he didn't drive off with the truck and only took the couple's low-end video camera. As such, some people have proposed a third theory, one that's much more speculative, but also much more sinister. That Brandon and Lisa were picked to be slain at random as part of a gang initiation. That may sound like a wild hypothesis, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time that such a thing has happened. To give one quick example, on April 12, 2013, a 30-year-old man named Carlos Hernandez was exiting his home in Houston, Texas, when he was set upon by an 18-year-old woman named Estorel Simpson. Estorel walked over to Carlos and began dousing him with a highly flammable liquid.
God damn.
Then, before Carlos could figure out what was happening, Estorel took out a lighter and set Carlos ablaze. She ran back to a vehicle in which her 2 accomplices were waiting. They were members of a notorious street gang in the area, and this had been Estorel's initiation. As the trio fled the scene at high speed, Carlos's neighbors began to hear his blood-curdling screams. They rushed out with buckets full of water, attempting to douse the flames that engulfed Carlos's entire body. Sadly, their efforts were in vain. One police spokesperson later described Carlos's remains as unrecognizable. Estorel and her associates were later brought to justice after she made a frank and full confession to a friend. She told this friend how she had set Carlos alight and bragged about how she had filmed the whole thing on her phone and continued to beat him as he burned. This friend then went to the authorities and told them everything. Carlos had been chosen at random, and he's not the only innocent person to fall victim to this initiation practice. The Italian mob even have a name for it: making your bones. Perhaps just as Estorel had recorded her initiation, Brandon and Lisa's killer may have recorded theirs, either on their own phone or on the couple's video camera. That recording may then have been given to the head of their organization, a symbol of their loyalty. In conjunction with the Arizona-based crime-fighting NGO Silent Witness, the families of Lisa and Brandon have offered a $10,000 reward to anyone who helps catch their slayer. But to date, not a single person has come forward with any useful information. Perhaps Lisa's old friend really was the man responsible. Perhaps this was just a robbery gone wrong. Or perhaps the truth is out there somewhere, on an old video cassette. Whatever the truth, looking at these photos now, knowing the fate that would soon befall Lisa and Brandon, is unsettling to say the least. And it makes you wonder what sinister force was lurking around them in the darkness that fateful night.
To record them before shit happened, before shit hit the fan, that shit crazy. Cause there's probably somebody out there watching that on replay.
A huge thank you to all of my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, especially my biggest supporters. Corbin Lowick.
Is that it? Okay. There probably is a video of them right before like shit hit the fan. And I don't know, cause they either have it on tape right before shit hit the fan, or right before shit hit the fan, and all of the gruesome, like the shootings and the actual killing itself is on camera. Oh God. That's, man. And it like with these security guards, like you 100% cannot trust everybody. And you shouldn't trust everybody. But it's just be like, it's just really ridiculous how the ones that's closest to you, or the ones that you think are going to protect you, are the ones that don't, and end up clucking you up in the end. God. I mean, I never really trusted, like, everybody. But when more and more of these videos come out of, like, these teachers and these officers and these people that's supposed to be there for you, but end up clucking you up in the process, when these videos come out, I just get, yeah, I get it. I find it real hard to trust people. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.